Hello everybody and welcome to the second part of a tutorial on the reported speech by Bildunginteraktiv. In the first part of the two tutorials we've already had the very important issue of the backshift of tenses and also how to put statements and commands into the reported speech. Now in this tutorial we will deal with the questions. A sentence would be, my friend asked me if I wanted to go to the movies with him, and also with the expressions referring to time and place and the pronouns. What happens to this, here, yesterday, tomorrow, from the direct to the reported speech. Let's have a look at the questions first. Now for the sake of simplicity, let's say there's simple questions and complex questions. A simple question is a question which can have yes or no as an answer. Do you want to go to the movies with me? Yes, I do. Complex question is a question that also needs a complex answer. Question would be, where did you spend your last holidays? And an answer would be, I spent my last holidays in Greece. Let's have a look at the simple question first. Suppose that somebody said 2 weeks ago, do you want to go to the movies with me? And now you are reporting this in the reported speech and you would use the sentence, my friend asked me if I wanted to go to the movies with him. Let's have a look at what happened here. Now first of all we need a speech verb, which in a question of course would be a verb like ask or want to know. And this speech verb needs to be in a tense of the past, like in the past tense or in the past perfect. Because if it were in the present, there would be no backshift of tenses. And the backshift of tenses is one of the things that makes the reported speech actually quite difficult. So in this case, we have he asked me or he wanted to know. The second thing I want to point out here is the lead-in for the subordinate clause, which for the simple question is if or whether. Especially for the German learners, a word of caution here. In English, we do not put a comma in front of if or whether. You have to be careful with that. And the third thing I want to point out, of course, is the backshift of tenses, and our present tense is becomes past tense was. So much for the simple question. Let's have a look at the complex question. Again, 2 weeks ago somebody said, where did you spend your last holidays? And in the reported speech we would now say, my friend wanted to know where I had spent my last holidays. Again, we have a speech verb as before. It should be in a tense of the past, so we would typically lead into the sentence with he asked me or he wanted to know. Now in the complex question, there is no if or whether as a lead-in for the subordinate clause. There is question words, and there's a lot of them, like what, who, and how many. And again, there is no comma in English in front of those question words. And then, of course, there's also the backshift of tenses, and the present tense is, in this case, becomes the past tense was. So much for the questions. Let's have a quick look at expressions referring to time and place and also at the pronouns. Let's suppose that, let's say 2 weeks ago, Jack said the following sentence in the direct speech. I spent my holidays in Greece this summer. And then in the reported speech, we would have Jack said that he had spent his holidays in Greece that summer. Now, highlighted in black, you will see there's already that there's a difference in tenses here. We have spent as a past tense in the direct speech, and the backshift of tenses had spent the past perfect in the reported speech. But some other things have changed too here. Now, Jack said that he had spent. You cannot use I in the reported speech here, because if you are saying the sentence, then you would have to use the correct personal pronoun, which in this case is he. Then of course he said that he had spent his holidays. You cannot say my holidays here, because it wasn't your holidays, it was Jack's holidays. So his holidays. And depending on when you actually use the reported speech, you would also have to change the this, it will become that. Now, 2 weeks later obviously isn't a change in year, but if you use the reported speech 2 years later, you would have to say Jack said that he had spent his holidays in Greece that summer. Now, here's the overview of the most common expressions referring to time and place with the pronouns. There is no overview because that always depends on the situation when you use the reported speech. So in the direct speech, this typically becomes that in the reported speech. Here becomes there, today becomes that day, yesterday becomes the day before, now becomes then. In an hour would be an hour later. Tomorrow typically is the next day, and the day after tomorrow, if ever you want that in the reported speech, you would use 2 days later. Thank you very much for listening. You can find part 1 of the tutorials on the reported speech and more tutorials on YouTube and also on our website.